Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. For those of you who don't know, my name is Rich, and I run and operate the Hard Compound. We are a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, and we cover everything from F1 to touring cars to sports cars, Indy cars, NASCAR, bikes, both in the UK and on the world stage, and we cover rallying and everything in between as well. We try and cover it as best we can in the form of about 3 or 4 articles a day on our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram social media channels. These are in the form of race reviews, race previews, throwbacks, birthdays, pictures of cars and bikes that we like, and all that good motorsport stuff. So do give us a follow. Search for the Hard Compound on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and on YouTube. And give us a follow so you don't miss out on all the good motorsport stuff that we have coming your way. Excuse me. As you may have noticed, we also do live interviews such as this one. We are currently streaming live on our Facebook, Twitter and YouTube, as always. We've had some fantastic guests in the past from right across the motorsport spectrum, both in the UK and on the global stage. From the British touring car world, we've spoken with Mr. Dick Bennett, the boss of West Surrey Racing and the man credited with launching the career in Eddie Irvine, Rubens Barrichello, Ayrton Senna and others. We've also spoken with a number of drivers past and present, the likes of Steve Soper, Rob Gravitt, Frank Sittner, Matt Neal. We've spoken with Ivan Muller, Graham Good. We've spoken with Gabriele Tarquini, Andy Prio. We've also spoken with Tom Coronel, many others, including F1 drivers, IndyCar drivers, sports car drivers, such as Alex Caffey. We spoke with Mr. Roberto Guerrero recently. We've spoken with Carl Wendlinger, Mika Salo, Ari Lyondike, Willie T. Ribbs, Alonso Jr., Will Power, Derek Warwick, David Brabham, Stefan Johansson, many others. And we've also had the honour and the privilege of speaking with Mario Andretti and Jackie Ickx. A number of those have raced or have driven Formula One cars. They've had success at Le Mans in sports cars. Some of them have raced in the Trofeo Andros. Some have raced in single seaters, and so has our guest this evening. He's a very famous name in world motorsport, and he's still active and he's still winning events in the last couple of years. So we've got a lot to get through with him. He's had a terrific career so far, and there's lots more to come. So we're going to bring him in right now without any further ado. Please join me in extending a very warm welcome to Mr. Nico Prost.
Good evening. Good evening, Rich.
Evening, Nico. How are you?
I'm very good, and you?
Yes, very well, very well. It's been a busy day, but that's how we like it. How's everything with you? Everything okay?
Very good. No, it's school holidays, so I'm skiing a bit with the kids, and it's really good so far.
Lovely. Sounds like a much nicer way to spend the day than driving along motorways in the south of England, so I'm a bit jealous. But firstly, thank you very much for coming on and having a chat with us, and taking some time out from your holiday to have a chat. It's very much appreciated.
You're more than welcome.
Lovely, thank you very much. Just before we get into it, turn my attention to the comments section just over here on my right hand side. Hello to everyone who's tuning in so far. Great to see you all. If you have any questions or any comments, do put them in there and we'll see them in real time. So we'll try and work them into the chat as we go. But as I said, we have got a lot to get through because Mr. Prost has done quite a lot of racing in a number of series. So we're going to try and cover as much as we can. But what we like to do is start right at the start. Normally, we would ask where your interest in motorsport came from. But I guess in your case, that's kind of a silly question, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was raised into motorsports, but I was also in kind of way raised not against motorsport, but it was very special at home because obviously my parents lost a lot of their dear friends in motorsport, and so I think me racing was the last thing my parents wanted.
Right. So, even your father was
Yeah, no, my father, my mother, they were against it for the risks probably, and so they pushed me to do a lot of other sports, but racing, I, they never did anything to get me racing basically. So
Right.
I was not programmed to be a racing driver.
So they just left you to do whatever you wanted to do, and if it was racing, okay, but they let you do.
I mean, actually, I just did a little bit of go-kart like this, but really like more or less rental go-karts. At the beginning, I did a lot of soccer, like any kid. And then I turned into ski. I was quite decent on the skis for a long time. But I always say my dad is a racing driver, but my mom is a school teacher.
Right. Okay.
So basically, school comes before anything. And so I was playing a lot of golf and doing the skiing, but school was always number one. And still, I was doing a bit of go-kart because I loved it, but it was something very far for me.
Yeah.
And then basically I went to college in America, and when I graduated from college, my parents said, "Okay, you graduated 1 year early, so you can have a gift. What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to do driving school, one day." And
Just
my parents,
okay.
well, the like anyone can do, I just said I want to try if I can. I'm 20 years old. Can I try? And
Wow.
my parents were like, "Okay, you deserve it. You can do it." And my dad brought me there, and he said, "He's gonna be so slow anyway. There's not gonna be a problem. He's never driven a race car or anything." And by the end of the day, I was doing the same lap time as the guy who won the championship.
In one
So
day.
in one day. So that's where the shit started for my parents.
I can't think where you got that natural speed from. I've got no idea.
I think, to be honest, doing other sports helped me a lot, like
Yeah,
skiing
with
and everything, because but for sure there was still a lot to learn, and the beginning was not so brilliant, but that's how it started basically. But for
wow.
me, I grew up in motorsport. I think it was normal to want to try once, but it was really not my parents pushing me to do that.
No, sure. Well, that's amazing. I mean, and I think it's nice that you wanted to try it and they were okay with it, and even though they were against it to begin with, still nice that you
Yeah.
were able to go and do it. Having done it once, I guess you thought, I'd like to do it again, and did it just like steadily grow into just a hobby at that point? Did you ever think of turning it into a career at all?
I think it was a bit. I was always quite. I don't know. I can say clear with it, and my parents were still very clear also with it. I was working on the side at the beginning and everything, so it was more like, if it works, it will work. If it doesn't work, I'll do something else. But obviously, I was 20 years old, and it was very difficult to say I wanted. Yes, I wanted to be a professional racing driver, but can I achieve it? Was like, my God, it's like a really steep hill that I'm facing at the moment.
Yeah, and there's lots of things that have to sort of fall in line for you to be able to do it. Of course, as we've seen on hundreds of on hundreds of careers in the past. I mean, when you were thinking that you'd like to become a professional racing driver, was there any concern that you're Alain Prost's son? Was it more pressure, or do you think were you concerned that you were perhaps always going to be you're going to be like Nico Prost, son of Alain Prost, rather than just Nico Prost?
Yes and no. I think maybe I didn't realize what it was going to be like exactly. But in the end, it's been my dad like this all my life, to always have advantages and disadvantages. So, but you cannot not do what you want just because your dad is Alan Prost. To do what he did is like almost impossible. So, but
Yeah.
if you think you can only be Formula One world champion and many times in motorsport, no, obviously it was my dream. I didn't achieve it, but in the end, you can still. I think there's still some really good things to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I've always said that being F1 champion must be incredible, but it's not the be all and end all. There's lots of people, including yourself, who have had fantastic careers and haven't become champions. So you can only be who you are and do what you do, I guess, can't you? Yeah. Just a good question. This is quite good timing. Simon Steele's just put a question in. Evening, Simon. He said, "Are your kids showing any interest in motorsport just yet?"
Yes, yes, but I think I'll do a little bit different from my parents. Is that I will not push them. I will just give them a little bit more, so that it's a bit easier in case they want to do it. But obviously, the big one is only 7, so it's not so old. But he's showing a lot of interest in speed in general, whether it's on the skis or on the go-kart, which is not making his mom so happy. And the small one is actually very comfortable with the steering wheel for a 2 years old, I'd say. But that's how old they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when the oldest one is like going fast, does does his mom look at you as if to say, this is your fault?
Yes and no. I mean, she's like, she would have loved that he would be gifted in another sport, but it seems that he's very gifted with anything that's related to speed. But I really enjoy also. I obviously have more time that my dad had, but to spend time around the go-kart or on the skis or something with him is amazing. So I really enjoy this time. It's not only about the future. You have to. It's a game. Just enjoy what you're doing, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, live for today, and the future will take care of itself. That's what we always say. Yes, I'm the same. I've got a 4.5-year-old girl and a 2-year-old girl, and I always wonder what they're going to grow up to be. And I think, no, just enjoy now. Just enjoy this bit.
Yes.
No, great. So after you've done your like day at the racing school and it's gone very well, how did you then go from there to? Now, correct if I'm wrong. You made your car racing debut in the Formula Renault series. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
How did it go from one day to there?
Obviously, I had to finish college in between. I was still in college for my first 2 or 3 races, which was awful because I had like jet lag and everything. But yeah, no, my dad helped me in this point, and we took a bit of contact with some old friends, like with the Shonak and everything. And I mean, we didn't really make the best choices also, in what we did at the beginning, but still I had to learn so much. Well, it's not so much the speed, it was just like only behaving in the field and everything. So the first few years were a bit up and down. There were some good things, but some really bad things also. And I learned a lot, but it was really like a steep learning process, basically. But also racing in France, like you said with the game, was not maybe the most easy thing. I actually learned a lot more when I went away.
Really? Right. So that was, yeah, so obviously you learned more being outside it. I mean, you got involved with, was it Graf Racing with the team who you got on board with in the Formula Renault, excuse me, in the Formula Renault like series. How did that come about? Was it just through people that you knew?
Yeah, obviously Graf was like the big team in France at the time. And I went there, and actually it was an okay year, for the level of experience that I had. But at the same time, SG, which was the ex-ASM from Vassar and everything, was rising very much. And I think Graf was a really good team for a top driver who was going to go for the championship. But me, I was still a young driver. I needed a lot of learning. And I think, I mean, in the end, the season was like this. But I think the next step in Formula 3 was much better for me because the environment was much better for me. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I, I had a quick look beforehand about some of the people who were racing in that series when you were there, and they've obviously gone on to do pretty well. We've got like Romain Grosjean who's
Yeah.
gone on. He's doing very well in IndyCar, and and like thankfully walked out of that awful accident. We've got like Simon Pagenaud again, and like another countryman of yours has gone on to do great things. Won the Indy 500 and doing very well in IMSA. And we've got Pippa Mann, our very own Pippa
Yes.
Mann from the UK. You raced against her. So, I mean, it feels like it was a good proving ground for, it was a good place for like young racers, to get started.
Yeah, D'Ambrose also was racing with
Oh,
us
okay.
at this time. A lot of, and I'm still a lot of drivers like Duval, Canal, like a lot of French drivers. So now the series was very competitive. Was 42 cars, and the same for Formula 3 after. A lot of them turned out to be professional. So sometimes when you look back and you're like, oh my God, that was seventh, that was terrible. And in the end, you look who you were fighting with, and it's not too bad.
Yeah, you think actually that was pretty good. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, not bad. I've got you in the Formula Renault. You went up in the French series, then you moved up to the 3.5 series with the Dams team. But I saw that you was it 2006. You went to Spain for Formula Three.
Yes.
Um, what was the thinking behind going to Spain? Was it just an opportunity that came up to race in that series?
Yeah, obviously, I was at this time. I was thinking between going Euro Series or going, and Spain was very big at the time. You know, sometimes we forget, but Spain was big. There was like lots of teams with a lot of money, it was Campos Racing
Campos, yeah.
Engineering, Bici, and all these teams. And Euro Series, you had to be in the SM car to win the Fred car, basically. And I couldn't get there in first year, and I'd been suffering a bit in Renault because I was not in the best team, and I had the opportunity to go to racing engineering, and so I took the opportunity, and it was very good because we had a lot of testing, and for me that was 2006 is the year that changed my career,
Yeah.
because I think I went from being an average driver or like okay to being able to fight at the top every race, and for me it was like where the everything's changed. Yeah.
I mean, it's always nice when you hear a driver say that was the year that things changed. It just changed the direction of it, or it gave you confidence, or whatever it was. And you said you did a lot of testing before the season started, and it seemed to pay off. It because you were quick.
Yeah.
Straight off in the first race, you were running at the front end, and I mean, was it a surprise that you were so quick, or had you kind of half expected it because you'd done so much work in the preseason?
I think there was a bit of stress, because it was an important season for me. I had to perform, and I knew I was there, but I didn't know whether I can really fight during the races. And yeah, since straight away from Valencia, I was number one in the team, and I was fighting in the front. So for sure, it changed everything. And from then, I really had a really good engineer on my car, was really pushing me, and also a very good mechanic, and I had a very good atmosphere around me. And in the end that year we lost the championship for stupid reason, because I remember in Jarama I was P2 under safety car. Someone didn't see the safety car from P20 and came and hit me, and then I had to start the next day from the back. And if you look at the points, I could have won the championship that year actually.
Wow.
So but no, it was a very good year and a very positive year, and from them I could build a lot of momentum.
Yeah, imagine.
Yeah.
Must be so annoying when that happens. I can only imagine. But
Motor racing.
yeah, it happens. But I mean, but you said that it was a good year, and you took your first win. Your first victory
Yes.
was it Barcelona, which is a
Yes, in
circuit,
Barcelona. Yes.
it was a circuit I like. That must have felt great. Get that first win. Was it happiness or relief or both? Or
Yeah, both. It's like, excuse me, but finally. And
yeah,
no, I was really, really happy. And I remember I kept pushing after the checkered flag because I was so scared that I was missing one lap or something. So I was screaming on the radio, is it over? Is it over? So yeah, no, that was really, really good, you know.
No, lovely. Yeah, yeah. The first one's always the best, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't know, but um, but no, that's great. And excuse me, just in a couple of comments about the sound is a bit echoey at Nico's side. I've just played with the sound a bit, guys. So do let us know if the sound's still echoing, and we'll have a play with it. Thank you. So for 2007, did you want to move on, or did you want to stay in the series and just have another go? And
No,
just
no, it was the plan was to win the championship. You know, I think it's important at some point. You know, it's good to show you can fight at the front, but it's also important to show you can win the championship. So I was always gonna stay. The only thing is it got a bit complicated with racing engineering because they decided to stop in the series, which was a bit of a shock. But then in the end, I tested for a few teams during the pre-winter testing, and I remember Adrian Campos came and said, "You're driving for me next year." And actually, Alejandro Agag was already in the team at this time. So, you know, small world, you find him back 10 years later. But and I had a really good feeling with Adrian and Campos. And I honestly, we didn't win. There was a bit of doubts on the cars in the front, but we had a really good year. We fought as much as we could. We lost the title on the last race, you know, but it was really a really good year. So we didn't win, but I mean, we gave it all, and it was
yeah,
really a team and a person I really enjoyed working with. Obviously, you know, rest in peace. But Adrian was a fantastic person.
yeah. That's lovely to hear that it
Yeah,
some personal memories of Adrian, because it was very. I mean, we lost him. Was it 2 or 3 years ago? Wasn't it? And he was far too young. But yeah, everyone says he was a lovely guy, and it's nice to hear that. And it's good that he gave you an environment that you could really feel happy in, and you could
yeah.
all work together, which is lovely. Excuse me. So you won again in Valencia and Barcelona. You took third overall, so still a pretty good season, even if you were aiming for the championship. That year was your first race at that 24-hour race that you guys do in France. It's on my bucket list. It's one I'd love to go to, and I will do. How did it come about? Because obviously you'd just gone through some various single-seater formulas,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden LMP1
Uh,
on. How did it all come together?
I mean, it was a bit of it's crazy. Like, but basically, I was only focused on Formula One, and Formula One, or at the time for me, Champ Car was also something I was really interested in. But I was only focused on single seaters. And Hugues de Chaunac called me and said, "Oh, you know, I'm gonna run this like Works Saline GT program and everything. I think you should come and do the shootout and everything." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, okay." You know, even Le Mans was something really far, you know, in my head and everything. So we did a shootout in Nogaro, and there was a lot of like obviously really good drivers there, and I did really well. And so they say, okay, you can drive. Like, we want you to be one of the drivers for Le Mans.
Wow.
And to me, you know, I was like, okay, cool, thank you very much, you know, but still not realizing how good of an opportunity it was. And so then I was obviously having my Formula 3 season, and then we didn't do so much testing, and then we went to Le Mans. And you know, Le Mans at the time, the track was still a little bit more challenging, and there was not so much simulator and everything. So when you go out for your first lap in Le Mans, it's quite something. You know, I remember like LMPs going all over the place, and it's not very nice. But then, you know, I got on and everything, and but still, you know, it just felt like another race, you know. And I remember it's just during the race, in the night, I'm waiting for the car, you know, I have my seat in my hands, and like I see all these people in the grandstand, and it's really strange atmosphere at night, and I'm like, yeah, shit, this is quite something, this race. I said, this is not normal, you know. And then I started to appreciate Le Mans, but I always say you cannot appreciate Le Mans until you've done it. You know, it's really something different. And I think that's what I've with you know, even the coolest races in A1 GP or Formula E are amazing, but the atmosphere that you get in some of these endurance races, for me, the best are Sebring and Petit Le Mans. It's like something else. You know, you don't see it anywhere else.
Love that, and I'm sure it's obviously the same for all the drivers, and also for the fans who go as well. I mean, I've spoken to a number of people who have been to Le Mans, and a couple that have been to Sebring, and they've said the same thing. There's just a different feel about it, and because we don't really get much coverage of those races or those kinds of series in the UK, and people don't seem to realise just how amazing these events are. I mean, just quickly, how did you deal with the tiredness from Le Mans? Because you spoke with I forget who I was speaking to a few weeks ago, and he said that Le Mans was brilliant until about 2 o'clock in the morning. And he just started to he couldn't sleep properly in the garage and things like that. Was that just part of the event for you?
For me, it was always difficult to sleep at Le Mans. I think the adrenaline and everything. I remember the first year, actually, I was watching a movie in between stints because I couldn't sleep. And in addition, like one of my teammates got dehydrated. So basically, we had to drive the last 14 hours, only two drivers. So in the end, I was just driving and driving, and I was feeling fine, you know. And you know, you get to 11 in the morning, you're like, yeah, I'm fine. I didn't sleep. I'm fine. But you don't remember there's still like 5 or 6 hours to go, you know. And at the end, I was a bit tired. But yeah, I think the adrenaline keep you up, you know. So
Yeah.
I don't I didn't see like except 2017 when it was really hot. Le Mans is not the most tiring race. Like some are much shorter but much worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess due to heat and things like that, and yeah, I can imagine. I think was it the Daytona that was a few weeks ago, and they said even in February that was still quite hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I can imagine. But no, that's fantastic hearing about Le Mans. We've got an Andy Dawson in the comments who said, yes, get yourself to Le Mans. He's been a couple of times and it's incredible. So, yeah, it's on the list. It's on the list. Excuse me. Where can we go? Okay, yes, let's go from there. From 2008, you went into the F3000 Euro Series again, like a step up. Was it a much more different, much more powerful car to drive, or did it handle differently, or did it feel similar to what you'd driven before in the single seated? Considering
I
what a
had
powerful car.
I had done a bit of A1 GP as a rookie, so I had a bit of
Mm,
which was a very similar car, but only like 2 days. And I remember my first test in 3000 was in Monza. And I remember the speed at the end because a Formula 3 is a very fast car in the corners, but very slow in the straights in the end, you know. A Formula 3000 was the other way around. It's very, very fast in straights.
right.
So it was kind of a shock to the first test. But in the end, I was very competitive straight away. The big step for me was physically. And I was always quite a fit person, but more like, how can I say, like a bike fit, you know. And I was very
Right.
light. So I remember after the first test, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in trouble right now. The steering wheel is so heavy. But I think everyone said of that car that the steering is awful. So basically, I spent the winter in the gym. I think I put on like 6 or 7 kilos for the season because I was
Wow.
like, in Formula 3, we were looking to be light because we were on the edge with the weights. But in 3000, the steering was really something. In the end, it was fine. But for me, the the biggest step was really the physical. In the end, the speed you get used to it quite easily.
Yeah. No, sure. And there's I guess no real power steering or anything like that in those days. You don't tend to. Nothing to help you like that. I mean, that time in the gym, it obviously helped because I mean, you had a good year. I mean, just from looking at the results you had of the races you finished, you only finished outside the top four twice all year.
Yeah.
So you obviously very very strong season, and you had a good battle. It was like you and like three others. What was it? Like Fabio Anidi, Adam Khan, and was it like Lewis Reiter?
But yeah.
That must have been a fun battle. I can remember seeing bits of it, but it must have been quite an intense season going up against those guys.
Yeah, and I think we had Maldonado for a few races also.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's
yeah.
always obviously it's always a good reference, but it's not easy when you're fighting with someone who's not fighting with you in the championship. But no, it was for me it was a very good year and very small team, very passionate also. And we had very good qualifying speed. So obviously, I think we had like 4, 5, maybe 6 front row starts out of 8 qualifying. So the and the more powerful cars seem to fit me a little bit better also. So it was a good year, and to win a championship in the first year was amazing, you know. So
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, yeah. It's nice to. Yeah, that was your first championship, wasn't it? That you'd won. Was it your first?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
that
it
was
was.
my
Yeah,
first
yeah.
championship. Yes.
I mean, one thing I did spot, and it came back to my mind that year. You won the title by 2 points at the final race,
Yeah.
but you finished seventh, and the guy who came second finished second in that race. What were you thinking? Did you know that you were in a position to win the championship with seventh, or were you thinking, "Oh, what's the other guy doing?" Or were you just focusing on what you were doing?
I was like such like I remember it was such a awful day because the championship we had the 2 last races on the same day,
Right,
and to be honest, I think I had a 24 points lead going into the last race, and qualifying was like a drying qualifying, and I think I'm on pole 30 seconds from the end, and but I'm the first one to take the checkered flag, so I had one less lap, and the track was drying very quickly, so I think
right.
I start P3. But I think I need like a P7 or something to make sure I win, and there's 2 races to go. And we start on a half wet track, and I remember a driver again coming from 14 tried to brake on the wet side and hit me. So I had to retire the first race and start dead last in the second race.
Wow.
So that's how I almost lost the championship. And in the end, I think he made a mistake, and that's yeah. So I won the championship also because he could have won the championship, but it was just stupid bad day, honestly. And in the end, it turned
Yeah,
out okay. But it's not so nice to win in these conditions because I think I deserve to win in a normal way.
yeah. Win it kind of your way. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I won't ask what you were thinking when that guy drove into you. We'll leave that.
I remember trying to bring back the car on 3 wheels, but it was not possible, unfortunately.
Wow. Goodness me, that I mean, I guess looking back on that day, I was like, yeah, it was a great day to win the championship, but the way it happened,
Yeah,
stressful.
very
Yeah,
stressful.
yeah, I'm sure. Um, the following year, oh, I think it was that year, you did A1 GP, which you touched on
Yeah.
before. I always thought that was a great series, and
Yeah.
it just didn't quite carry on the way I sort of felt it should have done. What were your thoughts on it? Because you did a handful of races, didn't you?
I think from anyone who's done that series, whether you're a driver, engineer, mechanic, organizer, it was one of the most fantastic time we have ever had. It was just amazing. The cars were amazing, and yeah, for me, actually, I was thinking I would become professional in A1 GP because it looked like it was going to become something next to Formula One. The cars
Yeah.
were amazing to drive. The events were honestly phenomenal. And so basically, my plan was to go race LMP1 and race A1 GP on the side, or well, or the other way around, but to make the two of them work. But
Okay.
it was an amazing series. It was not very lucky because I could have gotten pole, and I got in China, and the guy from Korea is in the middle of the track in the last corner. And then I had an electrical issue in Brands Hatch where I was really, really fast. But yeah, it was obviously it was still a step up for me. But I really loved that series. The car was amazing, the atmosphere was amazing, and I was really sad when it stopped.
That's great. I'm really glad that you said that. We spoke with Will Power, the IndyCar sort of
Yeah,
champion, and he said exactly the same thing. He said he really wishes that series could have carried on because he said it was fantastic as well. You mentioned Brands Hatch.
yeah,
Every single person I speak to, we always end up speaking about Brands Hatch because everyone seems to love it. Just last week, we spoke with Mark Sura, who's raced everywhere in the world, and he said his favourite circuit was Brands Hatch. Danny Sullivan loves it. Mario Andretti. We spoke with Sabra Cook from W Series. She loves it. Everyone from all over the world seems to love Brands Hatch. Is it a circuit that you like as well?
yeah, amazing. Like Brands Hatch in the A1 Ferrari was just fantastic. And I was really fast, so I was very happy with that. But when you've never raced at Brands Hatch and you go and it's the I don't remember the name of the corner in the trees at the back, but it's quite something. So yeah,
Got Hawthorne Bend, and then you go up Dingledale and round the back, and yeah.
yeah. No, it's an amazing track. It's like I love these old school tracks, like anyone, you know. But yes, it was a fantastic event also. Like a lot of people and everything. So, but Brands Hatch is among the best tracks I remember actually. I'd never been there. I didn't know the track. And I remember Danny Watts was coaching someone from Team England, you know. And I said, Danny, you have to help me. Explain me a little bit. And he was like, every corner was like, oh, you'll be okay. You know, it's not going to feel very nice. It's going to be a bit scary, but it's going to be okay. So that was his advice on every corner. So, but in the end, it was okay.
Wow, I love that. Brilliant. I mean, something that still gets me. I mean, it's about an hour and a half to drive in that direction for me. And every time I go as a spectator, how steep Paddock Hill Bend is, the first corner, it
Yeah.
still surprises me every time. What were you thinking the first time you went round that first corner and down the hill for the first time? Because I think a lot of people are thinking this is crazy. I think someone said they should be driving the other way around the track and you should be going up.
Yeah. No, it's actually a really difficult corner because I remember we had 3 practice sessions and I was very competitive for all the sectors. It's only sector 1, which is more or less only this corner. I was losing 2/10, and I just found it at some point. But it's just that there's it depends a bit obviously on the car, but it's just one line. Otherwise, because of the bend, because everything you cannot carry the speed, so it's a very very difficult corner. It's typically the kind of corners that you need to know, you know. But the whole track is a real challenge. But
Yeah,
for me, I always say it's the corner at the back. That's the 2 corners, you know, the quick one and the one that's going downhill. That's the most impressive.
yeah, yeah. I think it's Hawthorne, and I can't remember what the next one is. I'm sure someone will put it in the comments. But yeah, fantastic circuit. And you've kept up the record of everyone loving it, so that's good. Um, you mentioned about doing the LMP stuff, and that obviously kind of took over once the A1GP kind of thing stopped. You went into the 2009 the Le Mans series with like Speedy Racing and the Lola, fantastic looking car. Again, did that then become your focus, going like the sports car prototype route?
I mean, when I won Euro 3000, I had a few contacts, and I was close to get a proper test drive in Formula One, like you know, like in the old days. And in the end, it didn't happen. And in the end, I got this opportunity, and you know, I don't know why. Basically, Speedy is the team that became Rebellion Racing. So I don't know. I completely like random. I met Alexander Pesci, the owner, and I had a good feeling with him, and in the end, yes, it became like more or less the biggest part of my career, going 10 years, like 9 years in LMPs with them, and so it was like a bit random, but yeah, then you know, LMP is a fantastic category to do, and I was very happy to focus and always have some other things around or like another program, but it became my base program for 9 years, you know, so it was really really something. And at this time, you know, I was 28. I thought I would never get in Formula One, you know, so
Sure, sure.
uh, actually it came back the year after by so the but that's how it happened, you know, that's how it happened.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, and and again, it doesn't get much coverage here in the UK, and it really should, because I've been following it for years and years. I remember watching the sports cars at Brands Hatch in 1988, I think it was, with the Jaguars and the Mercedes and all those incredible cars. And obviously, as you say, it's become a huge part of your career. I remember you took your first podium again here in the UK at Silverstone, which is a circuit that, okay, they've changed it a bit, but I still love it. It's still a fantastic circuit. I mean, do you remember that first podium that you
Yeah.
took? Yeah, the first one in the LMP car. I guess it's another case of the first one is always the one that's most memorable.
Yeah, this was not so good because we should have won that race.
Yeah,
I actually had a really good stint because I moved from P5 to P1, and I gave the car in the lead to Marcel, and Marcel was doing an amazing job. And basically we had like a really small part of the louver which was broken, and there was a lot of politics, but they stopped us to change it where we should have been able to tape it. So we were P2, but we deserved to win. And so I was not happy at all on the podium that
yeah,
day.
yeah. I didn't want to bring up the fact you were leading. I didn't want to.
That's
But
life, Yeah,
yeah,
I've gotten over it. But yeah, I remember it was not very nice. And to be honest, sometimes, but this time was not very normal what happened.
no, sure, sure. And I was just looking through actually on the grid that year. This shows like the strength of the drivers that were on the grid that year. At some point in that on the grid that year, we had drivers like Christian Klein was on there, Simon Pagenaud, Nicolas Manassian, David Brabham, Alex Wurz, Bruno Senna, Oliver Panis, Tommy Erdos, Hideki Noda, Tom Coronel, Alan Simonson. All these drivers were all on that grid at some point that year, which shows the appeal of the series and the strength of it. So to be in a position where you were in, that position to win a race, it must have been again like another confidence booster. Even though it didn't work out at Silverstone, but
Yeah.
you must have thought, we've got a good team around us here.
Yeah. I mean, the team was very new. There was a lot of things to make better, and but there was always a good. We had a very good connection with the Swiss people and Bart Hayden also. And then, pieces after pieces, we made what became a really, really strong team at Rebellion Racing. The first 2 years were a bit difficult. We had things to settle. Obviously the Lola Aston was a fantastic package, so that helped us. But then, slowly and slowly, we built a really strong team, which became really good in the years 2011, 12, 13, all of this,
Yeah, it felt like it was like just a good basis for a team from the
Yeah.
from the excuse me right from the start. I know we're jumping around a bit here, but just very quick sidestep. 2010, your first Trofeo Andros. I mean, the ice racing thing, absolutely brilliant series. And I mentioned in the intro we spoke with Ivan Muller, who's done quite well in that, and he just said he loves it because it's like the ultimate driving skill kind of challenge, of car control and mastering the surroundings, things like that. Again, it was something that you took to really well. I mean, again, I've got here that in the 21 races in 2010, you finished on the podium 18 times, including 6 wins. I mean, that is mighty impressive. I mean, what car were you driving, and did you expect to be so good at it?
No, not at all. Actually, it's like they had a two-wheel drive category, and they were like really like good drivers driving in these categories against like Grosjean, Duval, and everything, And when I'd never driven on the ice, maybe once in my life, and I don't know, like and some people had been doing it for 10 years, and I don't know. I think I missed only one pole. Other than that, I was always on pole, and I don't know, something just it was for some reason it was easy. I was not even thinking what I was doing, and it was working really well. They changed the tires after, made it a bit more difficult for me, but that year was just amazing.
I bet. I just you go and try something, and you turned out that you're really good at it, and you do so well. Fantastic. And every time I watch it, I think, how are these guys doing this? How are because it just looks so difficult to find grip from the outside, obviously with the snow and but um, it's interesting that you said it almost came easily to you, which I think shows how good you are. But yeah,
I think the ice thing is either you get it quite quickly, either you never get it. It's a bit strange, but it's obviously a very, very nice championship. It's very, very competitive, and the driving is very, very different from anything you knew. I don't know if it's the ultimate driving skill, but it's still very interesting.
yeah. I think Ivan said that to make himself look even better, because he's won it so many times. It's like, oh, it's the ultimate, and I've done it.
Yeah.
No, we love him. He's the
No,
best.
but he's very good. He's amazing in any of these cars. He's amazing. But driving a Formula One very fast in Monaco is, I think, the ultimate thing.
Which leads me on very nicely to the next bit, because you went on to the F1 testing, F1 test drive. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously we know that you were not the main test driver with Lotus in 2013, but how did the call come to be a test driver in F1, and how did you react?
No, I mean it was very strange, but it's always like this in life and motor racing. What happened is that Renault was actually in the Andros Trophy, and they said, okay, it would be nice if once you could do a road show with the F1 and everything. So I was obviously super happy to do it, and then so I did the road show in Manicourt, but the road show was like basically giving you the chance to do a few laps. And I remember, I think D'Ambrosio, Aleshin, and Hoping Tung were running the other cars at the time. And basically, when they look at my lap times, they are like, the lap times are actually really, really good. Maybe we should get you in a car in a more serious manner soon.
Wow.
But the testing at this time was a bit stopped and everything. So 2011, they made me do a few more road shows, and from 2012 became much more serious. But completely came out of nowhere. The only thing is that that helped me a lot, and he's been very good for me in my career. Is that Eric Boulier used to be my engineer. He was my engineer in A1, so I think he had trust in me, and he was also pushing behind to have me at least get a proper test to see what I could do.
Wow.
Mm.
I mean, I've always wondered. I mean, I've mentioned it to uh, Tom Coronel. Did a test in the Arrows, I think, in 2001. I think he said. He was a bit disappointed with the F1 car because he sort of built it up so much in his own head that it's going to be this incredible thing. What was it like for you? Did you, when you first really put your foot down, or when you first braked into a corner, did it surprise you? Did your hair stand up on end or anything? Or?
Actually, I had this talk with many drivers, like with Nico Rosberg or like with Eduardo Mortara, or like things like I think if you're honest, the first time you go in a Formula One car and you take out the pit limiter, you're like, what the hell am I doing in this racing car? Why am I doing this? Because this thing is so violent, and you have so, like, your head is moving everywhere. And it's, for me, it's completely different level fast from anything else that I've driven. It's so fast. It's crazy. And then for me, the Formula One was just amazing to drive. It's like the quality of the car, the speed you can do, and how well the car works was just, I mean, I enjoyed every single bit of it. So no, for me, it was just even better than I expected.
Wow, I'm so glad to hear that, and that's amazing. I love that. I love it. Just, again, just to skip forward. 2013, you were official test driver for Lotus, and you were the drivers at that point were Romain Grosjean and Kimi Raikkonen. Yeah, Kimi. What's he like? I've got to ask, what's he like to work with? Because I love him. I think he's
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. But what's he like to work with on a professional level?
I mean, he's just like Kimi. It's like I have so much respect for him, and he's probably one of the most talented driver, and he's also very interesting. But Kimi is he's Kimi. He's doing his thing, and you look, and he will come and talk to you when something is interesting for him. For me, he was super interested in the ice racing cars. That was something that really I like, the four-wheel steering and everything. So he would come to me and talk to me for like 15 minutes about these cars, but then he would just leave and do something else. But I think he's really good at how he can get straight to the point, and I think he's also an amazing natural talent, and how he could at this point handle the tires and everything. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was really, someone I really had a lot of admiration for.
Yeah, lovely to hear. And I think you mentioned about the natural talent. I think what was it? He said he made his Formula One debut in just his 23rd car race or something, which is
Yeah.
just crazy, isn't it? Amazing.
Yeah.
Was there any opportunity to become like a full F1 driver with Lotus at that time? Was there any ever, or was it just always going to be like a testing situation, or were you not sure?
I don't know. To be honest, it was very clear from the beginning that they were looking for a very stable test driver to do all the simulator and to do some testing and some things. And I think by the time I was doing quite well with the car, the team was not in the financial position to really choose the drivers. So in the end, it was not never really. Even when Kimi left, they unfortunately then there was not really a very big opening for me, but still
Sure.
I really enjoyed my time in Enstone. It was some amazing years and amazing people and great team spirit, so it was very good.
No, lovely to hear that, and obviously just have the opportunity to to drive F1 cars is it's not something that we all get to do. So yeah, it's very cool, very cool. I guess the focus again sort of shifted back to the sports cars, the LMP and prototypes and things like that. And I mean, you've gone on to was it run at Le Mans? What was it? What was it? What 10? What 13 times now or something? You've raced at Le Mans, something like that.
No, 10 times. Yes,
10
10
times.
times.
I couldn't
Yes.
remember if it was yeah.
Yeah.
And you've I mean, the car that I always liked the look of was it 20? Was it 2012? Yeah, 2012, the year you took fourth overall.
Yes.
That was one heck of a car, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember watching Le Mans. Every time it was either you or your teammates came on screen. I remember looking at it, thinking, oh, that just
Yeah.
it looks fantastic. I mean, did it drive as nicely as it looked?
Yeah, no, that was actually the 2012 and 13 Rebellion, like the Lola. It was amazing
Mm,
car. Obviously, it was we had so many fantastic results with that car, and I had really great relationship with my teammates. So it was some, and my engineer James Robinson, who was like our great babysitter. He used always to say, "I'm not an engineer. I'm just a big babysitter for you." But no, it was some really good years. But the car was maybe one of the last cars you could really overdrive and still be quick. Like I remember we were pushing so hard with this car, like and around road Atlanta or like tracks like this was really something amazing. Then the cars they became a bit different with the smaller tires and everything, but this was really a good car to drive and obviously a very good looking one also.
yeah, yeah. Which helps for us fans. It's the one that the fans like. But it's great that it was such a nice car to drive. And I'm just thinking about taking that car around Road Atlanta, which sorry, Road Atlanta. Was it Road Atlanta or Road America? You
Road Atlanta, yes.
Road
I
Atlanta.
never raced Road
That's the
America
really
because Road
hilly one, isn't
Atlanta
it?
is Petit Le Mans. Yes,
Yes, it's the real
yes,
sort of up and down
yes,
circuit. Looks fantastic. Looks like a brilliant circuit to drive. While on the subject of circuits out in the States and MP and all that, putting them on, you you raced at Sebring, which is obviously a
yes.
hugely famous circuit. It's known for the bumps, being very bumpy. I mean, is it really that bad? Is it a really
Yes.
bumpy circuit?
Oh my God. The first year we went there, I remember, I think the car was 5 seconds off the pace with our normal WEC setup because you cannot run any bump rubbers or anything around that track because they're so bumpy. But then when you get the setup, okay, it's okay. It's just the last corner. There's only one line. If you go off that line, you're over the bumps and you're like a passenger of the car and you're waiting for it to stop bouncing. Is like crazy,
Wow.
but it's a great track. Is and again a great atmosphere. For me, Road Atlanta is a better track, but Sebring, the atmosphere and everything is fantastic.
Yeah, love it. Terrific. Excuse me. Again, I'm just we're jumping around because I've got so many things you can talk about, but I'm very wary of the time. I don't want to keep you for too long. You mentioned some of your teammates or people that you've raced with. Um, you're like Neil Jani, who I think is incredibly underrated. I mean,
Yeah,
he's done so many amazing things, and he's had so many results. And like you've raced with him on a number of occasions, of course.
yeah,
Um, Again, because it doesn't get the coverage on the TV here, people may not have heard of him, but I just think he's one of those guys who could maybe drive anything, because
yeah.
he just seems very very good from the outside looking in.
Yeah, Neil was is one of my best friends, and obviously we're already kind of teammates in A1GP because Team France and Team Switzerland were run by Dams, so we were really already good friends. and then we were teammates for 5 years in a row, and most of the time only two in the car. So, and we won so many races together. So, and yes, he's a very, very strong driver, very, very strong driver.
Yeah, excellent. Just another, you raced with like Marco Andretti, another famous name as well. He's obviously doing, he's still racing out in the States, and IndyCar doing very well. But another guy I just wanted to mention was like Nick Heidfeld, who you've raced with in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Also, obviously known to us Brits for his time in F1. But another of those guys who is a top level driver, isn't he?
Yes, obviously, but I mean, his career speaks for himself. But Nick was again someone I really got along really well with, and yeah, very, very, very a little bit different driver. Nick is like sometimes he's sleepy and everything, but when he wants to go fast, he can go really, really fast. I think the top speed of Nick is very, very impressive.
Yeah. I actually messaged him on Instagram a few weeks ago, and he hasn't come back to me. So. Okay. Not listening. No, great guy. Again, I mean, there's so much we can talk about on the sports car and the LMP1 side of things. Just want to touch very quickly your class victory, your class win at Le Mans. You must be very proud of that. Being able to say that you've taken victory at Le Mans.
Yeah, no, obviously, like Petit Le Mans twice. That's I'm really very proud of also. And no, obviously all the titles and everything we won with Rebellion is amazing, and it was very consistent, and also proud because I think in some ways I was with Neil, with other drivers, very much responsible for helping the team grow in what it grew. And I tell you, the team we had in 2012, 13, and also maybe in 17, they were like really, really strong operations.
Yeah, fantastic. Love it. Quickly, 2015 Formula E hit the world. Obviously, it's and it's gone from strength to strength. It's kind of stuttered a little bit recently, but people may not know this. You took the first ever Formula E pole, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which I think is very cool. It's the first thing for the history books. How did your move to Formula E come about? Was it something that you were interested in, obviously with the way the world is going greener and all that kind of thing, or was it just something that came up at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of both. Obviously, it was this series was building with big teams and a very strong driving field straight away. And also, I thought, I don't know if the electric cars is to be honest, I think I don't say nobody knows, but there's the picture is very big on what we have to do to have greener cars or like a greener environment. But at least trying to develop the technologies and to say, okay, we have all the technologies, they're pushed to their maximum, and now we can choose which is the best one. Because I think Formula E is quite interesting from that point, is that the link between the series and the racing can be a bit stronger than with Formula One, for example. Sure. But then, yeah, I mean, obviously I had links with DAMS, I had links with Renault existing from other categories. So it came very early, and it was, we didn't really know what to expect, to be honest, but, and it was quite stressful ahead also, because when you were seeing the level of the driving field, you're like, oh my god, this is not going to be joking. But
well, some good drivers, weren't they? On the
yeah. I think it in some, and when you know you're going to be in the same car more or less, especially in season one, you're like, it's going to be a tough fight. So to take pole in the first race I was quite proud of this.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it was great that again, the first race for Formula E, they'd made a big thing about the new series and how good it was. And I think to have Prost on pole, I think it was I think the series thought, oh, this is going to look even better,
Yeah.
And it was obviously a terrific lap by you. Got to ask, the race didn't end quite so well with what happened with Nick Heidfeld. What dare I ask? What happened?
To be honest, what happened is that it was the early days of Formula E, and the battery overheated, which I didn't know. And so basically, I'd never expected anyone to come because he was way behind, but I didn't feel the loss in performance. Suddenly, I see him next when I was turning, and it was kind of a knee-jerk thing. And
Yeah.
completely my responsibility, and it was something that should never have happen, and in the end, the important thing is didn't get hurt. I apologized to him probably 1,000 times, but I didn't think that there could be a car next to me, because when I entered the straight, he was 2 seconds behind.
Yeah.
So that's what
And
happened basically.
and you didn't feel the car slow or anything like that. It
No,
just
because you lose acceleration. It's very difficult to be honest. At the beginning, the power we had in the races was already so low that losing a bit more was not, you could not really feel it.
no,
Yeah,
sure. But as you say, the main thing was nobody got hurt, and it was fine. It was okay. Happier times. Your first win in Miami, much better.
yeah.
That must have been nice to take a win there, and it's quite a cool city as well, isn't it? So it must have been a good
No,
weekend
that
for you.
that was amazing. For me, as a racing driver, this is my biggest achievement from a sports point of view, because level playing field, everyone with the same car. When you see the names you've beaten, you feel okay, I can beat anyone, But yes, for me, that was a fantastic. The London wins were amazing, but I had a better car than at least some others.
Yeah,
But this, everyone had the same car, so I had maybe a better setup, but that was down to me and my engineer, and I think I did a good job.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I can remember like watching it and just first race I'd seen in Miami, I think, and yeah, and from the outside looking in, it looked like a terrific bit of driving. So I'm glad. It's good to hear that it felt like it from inside the car as well. You mentioned those two wins in London. I was actually at those. I actually went to them. We actually, you don't realise this. I haven't mentioned this. We actually met very briefly behind the scenes at Formula E. I was walking around and I just went, oh, and we were walking. I think it was back down behind the garages or somewhere, or some area where the public were. And I
Okay.
just went, oh, Nico, and you went, oh, hi, hello, and you sort of walked off. So we've kind of very briefly met. But what did you think of that circuit around Battersea Park? Because there was a bit of, the locals weren't happy about it sometimes, were they? They would go, "Oh, you can't go racing in my
Yeah.
backyard." But what did you think of the circuit? Obviously, you won, but was it?
I was I mean, it was a challenge, to be honest. The first corner, especially, which was really fast with like a hill and everything. But um, that's what people also, sometimes they say the cars in Formula E were not fast or whatever. Yeah, but man, driving around these tracks that we were driving, and the cars were actually fast and not handling that well, because the tires are not slick tires. So the challenge of driving Formula E in the streets is like amazing, to be honest. It's really, really a great challenge. And Battersea Park was, yeah, it was one of the it was one of these early days racetracks that we had, that were proper challenges and with some really quick corners and really nice.
Yeah, I'm glad that you sort of mentioned about the challenge of a street circuit because there's no big runoff areas. If you get it wrong, it goes wrong. It's the same with Monaco as well. I'm very pro street circuit. I think they're excellent. I think we need more of them, and people seem to disagree with me a lot. But I'm a big fan of street circuits. I don't know if you are. Or...
No, for me, street circuit is the ultimate driving challenge. The only problem we have is the cars are getting bigger and bigger. If you look at Formula One today, in Monaco is like almost bigger than half of the track. So
Yeah, yeah,
to overtake is impossible. So that's the problem. But when you have like nice street circuits, is like, and when you look at a quali lap around Monaco, is so nice to watch. So I'm a big fan of speed. I don't say I'm not a big fan of racing, but for me, I'm really more interested in the perfect driving lap. So
yeah,
it's really something like, when to see a really great onboard lap around Monaco is amazing.
yeah. That's great. And you get a lot of fans these days. They're sort of talking about it not being exciting or not being great for the TV. I thought, well, it's not about TV. It's
Yeah,
about the challenge for the drivers, and all the drivers love Monaco. And I'm going to defend it until the day I die because I think it. And they just got to make the F1 cars smaller. We'll be fine.
yeah.
And then we can go back to the great days of Monaco. Again, I don't mean to skip over sort of things, but your time in Formula E, how did that come to an end? Was it just because your final year wasn't so competitive, was it? You were a little bit
Yeah, my last year was not very good. My first 3 years were really good. I think I did sixth, third, and sixth in the championship, and my third year was pretty bad. But a lot of yeah, I mean, something didn't work anymore for me, and the team was going to Nissan, and I was getting a bit old and everything. So lots of things going on. Not so much luck also on the track that year. And yeah, I mean, and then I could not find a good drive in another team that was very competitive. So that's but I'm a bit sad that it ended on not the best note, and also a bit sad that I was not younger when it started, because obviously I was 37 or 38 already. So obviously
Yeah,
the other kids are 22, and when
yeah,
you have a bad year when you're past 35, if you have one bad year, it's very difficult to bounce back. Yes.
yeah. Sure, it's just an unfortunate timing thing, but yeah, a shame. Um, just going into the more recent years, just a couple of things. You've got won back-to-back championships in the Ultimate Cup series. Now, I must admit, I wasn't really aware of this until a couple of years ago. For those who don't know, what is the Ultimate Cup series? Because it does look excellent.
Yeah, it's a championship that basically was starting. There used to be a championship called V de V in French, and now it started. Ultimate made it more competitive and more serious and everything, and for me, like I saw that they were running the Formula 3 cars, and I was like, before I get too old, I have to race monociters again, and so it was kind of crazy. But my team, like, they found the solution so that we can run in this championship, and it was an amazing experience, to be honest, and so nice to be back to what I love, like no politics, nothing, just go back to the old days of Formula 3. Sometimes when Most of the times when I'm on the podium, the two kids next to me, the addition of their age is smaller than mine.
Wow.
But but that's life, but now it was really I think I'm not sure I will race again next year in this series, but for me it was really nice to do it again, and yeah, just do, like I said, I was not programmed to be a racing driver, so what I do is what I like to do.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just like going back to basic racing, as you say, without the politics, which I think we'd all like to see, wouldn't we? I think it's
Yes.
something we'd all love the world to be. Um, Quickly, you raced, or you did like some like demonstration runs out in Dubai, wasn't it? With the was it the footwork you drove from
Yes.
95,
Nine,
1995?
94, I think.
Four,
94 or 5, I'm not sure
one of the
actually.
two.
Yeah.
I think it was when I first actually put a message on I think it was your Instagram post about it. And I asked you a couple of questions about it. It just looked like you had a lot of fun
Yeah.
because it was from your father's kind of era, wasn't it? The car, so
Yeah, I
it must.
never drove one of my father's cars, and for me, the era that's it's most striking to me is like these 89, 90 cars.
Yeah, that's
Look really like really difficult to drive and everything. So when I got the opportunity to drive this car, it was like, yeah, of course I wanted to do it, and it was just like, it was really like I imagined. Actually, it was like exactly the same thing. It's very strange. There's no mechanical grip. The car is sliding all everywhere, but it's so light. You think you can always catch it, and yeah, it's. Obviously, I would have loved to race these cars, and actually, well, it's a '94 car, but you feel really safe in them. So
right.
it was really nice.
Yeah, lovely. I mean, I saw the pictures of it, and it just looked nice seeing a car from that era back out on track again, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. Um, Again, we're very aware of the time, but uh, you said that you've not driven one of your father's cars. I read somewhere. I've just got to talk about your father very quickly,
Yeah, no problem.
because people of my age will have obviously grown up watching him. Our age, I suppose. I've read somewhere that you drove the Renault from '83. I read somewhere. I'm sure
No.
someone said that you read it, and then someone said that you didn't like it, but that might have been made up.
No, I never did. I mean, we talked a few times with Renault, but this car is not running very easily. And
Yeah,
Renault don't. It's not like McLaren, who have their cars. They can basically take them whenever they want. So it was never so easy to do. And in the end, I never drove any of my father's cars. So
oh, shame.
to drive at least something that's a bit comparable is nice. But I must say, in my dream, the one I would really like to drive is the 1990 Ferrari, because for me, this car is like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
It is. It's gorgeous, isn't it? That's the 631, isn't it? Is it? I think it's the 631. I think, or is it the one
641, I think.
641? Is that
I
yeah?
think
631 was
yes.
89.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful car. We'll have to maybe at the Goodwood Festival of Speed or something. They'll have to wheel it out and get you behind the wheel. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Just very quickly, we've got to touch on your father. I think a lot of people would like to hear just a few little bits about your father. Obviously, four-time world champion and the whole Alain Prost and Senna thing. We all know it's been spoken about so many times. Very quickly, when did you become aware of how well known your father was? Uh, was it from quite a young age, or when did you really realise it was like, oh wow,
Um, for me, it's difficult because I was always growing up like this, you know. But honestly, it was like very present, like say, because even at school and everything, and you know, it was like Formula One at this point, and especially the battle with Ayrton was like half of the people were pro Ayrton, half of the people were pro my dad, and like everyone was talking about it, and
it was the
so
same
no,
everywhere?
I was very much aware of that. It was like he was a very famous person, but for me, it was just that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Which I guess to us looking in from the outside is strange because obviously we all know, yeah, the rivalry that your father and Ayrton had, and um, I mean, I've got to ask about the two incidents. I mean, I can't speak to Nico Prost and not ask about this. 89 at Suzuka. People have said, "Oh, Ayrton went for a gap that wasn't there, and that's all the other nonsense at the chicane." Some people said that your father turned in too soon, which it depends on the angle. I mean, obviously, you might be a bit biased one way or the other, but do you think that Mr. Balestre got it right in '89 when he disqualified Ayrton because of the went through the chicane and all that other nonsense? I know it's a tough one
uh,
because I
I
personally
think,
think
you
he
know
did.
what? I think overall things worked out fine. They got one title each.
Yep, we'll go
No,
with
but
that.
you actually, you know, I have an amazing relation. Like Bruno is one of my best friends, and Vivian is like amazing people and everything. But you know, like you have to put in perspective the kind of people that that they are and they were, and how much they wanted to win. So at some point, if you look at 89 Suzuka, is like Ayrton, I'm dive bombing. My dad's like, no, there's no chance you're going. I'm closing the door. You know, so in the
Yeah,
end, it's pure motor racing. There's no there's nothing like hidden behind the scenes. You know, my dad and Balestre didn't have a really good relationship either, so it's not like I I think people sometimes make too much of a story of like just two guys that were completely maybe ruthless, you know, and wanting to win as much as possible.
yeah,
Maybe in the what I feel is that the only thing that's, if you look today, maybe if you look at like Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi have a lot of respect for each other, and if you look Federer and Nadal and everything, it's just that in the 80s it looks like people had to be much rougher. You know, if you look at Maradona and like it's just that the 80s were like this. You know, different time, different, but you know, my dad had so much respect for Ayrton, and they were just trying to win, and for them there was no limit on what they could do, basically. You know.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and that obviously carried on into 1990 when, well, we all know in the centre it was just wrong, wasn't it? It was just you don't
Yeah.
you don't do that. I mean, obviously when Ayrton very sadly passed away far too soon, and your father was obviously at the funeral and carrying the coffin and everything. That must have. I mean, I guess he doesn't really speak about it much, but that must have been a very difficult time for him. I think it often gets overlooked. You know, we look at people of Brazil and Frank Williams, and obviously Ayrton and like Bruno and all on that side. But people don't tend to sort of focus on how difficult it must have been for your father because you know for 3 or 4 years. if you mentioned Senna, you mentioned Prost, and it must have been very difficult for him. Do you remember it at all?
Yes, no, of course, it was a huge shock for him. I think it was for us like we lost a part of our family because Ayrton
Mm,
was like a main topic of discussion, obviously, even though I was quite small. And like I said, my dad had so much respect for Ayrton, and in the end, I think my dad inside of him thinks nobody could beat him. And I think Ayrton maybe put that sometimes in doubt, you know, and that's why he's the only one that is thinks maybe on ground level I'm not gonna beat him anytime, you know. And Yeah, it was a very a big shock, and I like for him it was like he lost someone very very close, and also they gotten so much closer in the recent months and everything. And I think even for him 10 years later or even today is like what would Ayrton be doing today, what would be our relationship today. And
yeah,
so for yeah for him it was like imagine you fight with someone for 10 years almost in a row, you know. And so um it was a huge shock at home. It was a huge shock.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. We're not going to dwell any more on that. I mean, it's a huge shock to all of us. I mean, um, obviously I've often said, obviously we lost Roland Ratzenberger the day before as well, and that kind of gets overlooked. And not to I don't know, not to dismiss what happened with Roland because it was awesome, because it was awful, but it didn't feel real when Ayrton passed, did it? It was like, no, surely not. And it was, yeah, awful shock to all of us. But it's nice to hear that he and your father were much closer, and yeah, just it wasn't as bad as everyone thought it was between the two, perhaps, which is lovely to hear. Right, looking at the time, we've just got some fun questions that we like to finish with. We ask them to everyone. Very quickly, your helmet design. I've always thought you might have had the same as your dad, but you kind of do, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of evolved, even not too much. But for me, I'm actually kind of completely crazy about helmet designs. But at some point, I had a big evolution of my dad helmet, like in Formula E times. And then I went back to his go-kart helmet, which was like completely light blue with only the French flag on top. And the one I have right now is kind of a mix of the two. So for me, I see his helmet and everything. But yes, there's a definitely a homage going to his helmet.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is excellent. We love it. Love that. Um, Apart from your dad, did you have a favourite driver growing up? Was there anyone who you liked to watch when you were watching racing?
Hakkinen. Yeah, I was a
Mika,
big, yeah, Hakkinen. Yes, for me,
yeah,
when I was a teenager, I was a big fan of Hakkinen. Yes.
yeah, fantastic, fantastic driver. I remember watching him in British F3 back 1989. Him and Mika Salo. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and you could tell he was good then. Is there one series that you'd like to, I mean, apart from Formula One, is there one series that you would like to have given really had a try in, whether it be IndyCar or World Touring Cars or NASCAR or
um, I think anything, you know, but like I would have loved to drive the old champ cars, like the ones from the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, like these look like proper big race cars.
yeah, the ones was it Jacques Villeneuve had one in '95 and
Yeah,
Eddie Cheever and
Zanardi and Montoya and all these guys. Yes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I spoke with Brian Herter on one of these, and he said that was the best era of cars to drive. So yeah, oh yeah, that would have been great. Um, okay, last three. Favorite car you've ever raced?
Um, I'd have to say the Formula E. It sounds
Yeah,
crazy, but for me, for the emotions and the team and everything, Formula E.
fantastic. Your favorite circuit is Brands Hatch up there?
Yeah, actually, I always say Road Atlanta, but Brands Hatch is quite similar. But yes, in between these two, I would say yes. But you need a proper monoseater to go around these tracks.
Proper one. Fantastic. Okay, this is a tough one. The best driver you've raced against. I mean, I've got a list of just a few. You've raced against, you mentioned like Pastor Maldonado. We've raced against Emmanuel Pirro, Sebastian Bourdais, David Brabham, Pagenaud, Grosjean, Jan Magnussen, Christian Fittipaldi, Alan Simonson, Jacques Villeneuve, Johnny Herbert, Will Power, Rockenfeller, Salo, Gasly. I mean, it's so many you've raced against. I mean, is there any that you raced against that you thought this guy's
Buemi.
good? Buemi.
Buemi. Yeah, I think Buemi is obviously is also a very close friend, but he's the most complete driver I've had next to, and very talented, very hardworking, and I mean, I think he's how can I say, his career is showing how fast and good he is, but for me, it was very, very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, one of those drivers not perhaps spoken about enough, because I think people again focus on Formula One and not on the other things that he's done. And yeah, no, good choice. I think you're the first person who said Buemi, and it's surprising, but
Yeah.
no, good stuff. Right, it's been an hour and 20 minutes, but no, thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming on and having a chat. We're going to wrap it up there, but it's been absolutely brilliant speaking with you. Really appreciate you sparing your time. So yeah, thank you very, very much.
It was been really a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Great stuff. And to everyone in the comments, thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in, as always. And we've got some more coming up in the next few days. But for now, I'm going to say thank you very much again to you, Nico, and good night to everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.